Hi, everybody. Ow. How's it going? We are here again. I can't quite believe that we're on into a third week that I've been doing this for 2 weeks. It does not feel possible, kind of. There we go. And yeah, I'm just kind of shocked that we're still going. So thank you for coming along with me. I am stirring my tea. Hi, Terry. So tonight I'm going to do 2 chapters because tomorrow night is kind of a bigger one. You'll see. I'm not even going to worry about that. But for those who haven't tuned in yet, this is where I am reading my book, The Oat Project, How I Faced My Fear and Came of Age in One Wild Summer. I'm reading it aloud to you. We are right here. So we're more than halfway. If you follow me on Facebook or we're friends, I posted the very first episode just a little while ago. There is a YouTube playlist that is in the description for this. And I have a friend who just puts it on her headphones when she takes a walk. My aunt, whom I love. And so, yeah, I mean, I intended it for that kind of, just throwing it on and watching until you don't want to watch anymore because I'm crying or something like that. So yeah, I hope you've had a great day. Let's see, a couple of things about the reading. There are parts in the book that are in italics, and you'll hear me kind of like this. So it's inner thoughts. And so you'll hear me kind of go into first person every now and then, and that's when I'm talking with inner thought, or speaking of that. And then there are parentheticals throughout the entire book, which are from the sort of current day, not 2007, but actually 2016, which is when I finished editing and brought the book out. So for you, my people that I worked with in 2016 in the summer, this is what I was doing, besides the other stuff. It was a huge job, but I got it done. So a lot of people think that it's like mom's gone wild all the time in my life. I have 3 kids, which you will read about, and my husband in the book, my ex-husband now, but my husband then, his name in the book is Jack. So if you hear that, I've been meaning to tell you that's what that is. And this is Earl Grey tea with molasses in it because I'm kind of addicted now, and I can't drink anything else at this point. I'm going to have to find something to be a little jazzier. So we're just going to get into it, okay? Here we go. All right. And I'm going to, now it's, okay. Hair of the Bill, chapter 17. Guilty pleasure. Let us be clear. Drunk could have happened already over the summer. I had opportunity and had definitely been buzzed. So why did I not go ahead and do it? Well, this was the task that started it all, and I needed those original girlfriends with me. Also, I was scared spitless. Another reason, it's not a habit. I drink like I eat, very slowly. Same at home, same at a restaurant, same at a party. I had drunk 2 glasses of wine once or twice during the project. I was busy with too much to do at night, nursing the baby, putting kids to bed, writing, talking with Jack. It didn't occur to me to drink to handle it. Parentheses. Even all these wild years later, it's not part of my everyday life. Like any holiness Christian, my dad used to brag that alcohol had never touched his lips. Then, a few years ago, he drank what he thought was fake champagne. It was regular alcoholic champagne. Dad, finally a fallen drinker. It was childish to feel gleefully happy about this, but there it is. Our church taught that biblical wine was less alcoholic, more like grape juice, which we used for communion. I sneaked so much of it from church refrigerators over the years, I still feel a guilty thrill when I drink it. Welch's grape juice, I get a guilty thrill still. It's ridiculous. Drinking was the first thing I was admonished to never, ever do, because you never knew where it would lead. To instant alcoholism, to premarital sex, to adultery, to porn, to, heaven forbid, dancing, which can lead to drinking or premarital sex, or you get the picture. Before adulthood, I tasted wine once. In 7th grade, we lived in Ohio, and I got invited to Florida with my best friend. We swam and popped chameleons off the screen enclosing her grandmother's pool. We went to Easter Sunday service, and when I went through the communion line, real unholy wine passed my lips. I never told my parents about the wine, but when I told my mother I'd worn my favorite shirt, hideously wide gold and ivory stripes, puffed sleeves, she was horrified I'd subjected all those rich Episcopalians to my fashion gaffe. It was one of the first times I recall willfully disobeying her. Whenever I got home and couldn't find those who were supposed to be there, my first thought was that the rapture had come and I had gotten left behind. I would never make the cut because of my rebellious mind, my masturbation, my inner sin. Drinking was preached as the first step to the damnation I knew was already mine. I'm just going to blink for a second. I played Spider-Man video games with my son today, and I wasn't breathing or blinking. Okay, context. I didn't know you could dance like that. My mother's brother is my favorite relative. Uncle Chuck was exotic because he was rich. Parentheses. Now I know he was simply well off. He rarely worked fewer than 4 jobs at once, hence the money, and lived in Chicago with my Uncle Dominic, his best friend. Originally from the Caribbean, my Uncle Dominic had one of the first prominent black-white marriages in the nation. In the 1960s, he married a white senator's daughter. Divorce became the only option after a little over a year when they both got drunk at a party and she made the mistake of publicly slapping him, and he made the mistake, with reporters present, of carrying her out slung over his shoulder. The imagery was too much for their nascent relationship in the midst of the civil rights movement. They were the only relatives I knew who drank. My mother's pride in the cautionary tale of Uncle Chuck's dancing impressed and confused me. He was one of the top experts in his field, speaking all over the country. One time he was the keynote speaker at a conference, and at an after party he got plastered. The next day, as he passed attendees in the hall, over and over, they said some version of, "Boy, Mr. Milhouse, I didn't know you could dance like that." Their keynote speaker had danced on the tables, and he could dance, almost going professional when young. As a result of this lapse, did his career suffer? Was he castigated or blackballed? Not that I ever heard. Maybe he had to apologize to someone the next day, like when Stella had to call all her friends and faculty for getting smashing drunk at a college reception. But maybe not. Maybe he gained cachet. His colleagues certainly saw him in a new way. Outside the circle of self-righteousness I call the church, people seem to understand humanity better, that we fail, make mistakes, and even occasionally make total fools of ourselves. The evangelical church seems to have taken the Apostle Paul's admonition to be self-controlled as an order to be a robot. I am not a fan. So you want to be free? That night at the writers' conference back in April seemed years ago. I had seen some of them at writers' events, but the project had taken over most of my non-mom time. I was beginning to understand what I could not have known then, why they had been so worried about me. I didn't get drunk then, despite their insistence, because it had become part of the project. When I didn't want to go take a puff of a clove cigarette that night, Dr. Maisel said, "So you want to be free, but you want to control it." "Yes," I said, "exactly." He looked skeptical. And even after facing all the tasks up until now, I was still afraid of drinking. I do not like being out of control of my mind, body, or intentions. Will I always be a Nazarene? Probably. And I could imagine infinite ways I would embarrass myself while drunk. My mind is so active. I walk down the street, observing, analyzing, evaluating, keeping it inside my head for a million different reasons. So the prospect of loosening my tongue was horrifying. Shit. I also know what I want and imagine doing. Will I do things I want to but don't want to? I am so afraid. But I had faced fear all summer. True, I'd skipped some things. But I'd also done things I thought would open up a slide straight to hell in front of me. No slide appeared. Advice for the night. Eat a big meal. Don't eat a big meal. Drink one kind of drink. Drink whatever you like. Drink a lot of water. Don't drink a lot of water until after. Take vitamin B right when you start. Drink lots of water the next day. Journal. I'm not that nervous. No, that's not true. I'm beginning to be at peace with fear. I'm looking forward to hanging out with my friends, making new ones, making, oh dear Lord, I guess that's coming, a complete fool of myself. That's what I really fear. Will I ever move beyond middle school? Does anyone? Report. We could arrange that for you. I dressed my best and got to Rico's at a little after 6. Excuse me. Aaron soon arrived. Excuse me. Then Sarah and Ellery got there next, then Arissa. No one else, and though I missed my other friends, it had to be fine. I can't ruin the night for these beauties who showed up by focusing on those who didn't. But I was puzzled. Most of them had stopped checking in or responding to my updates. So my updating had slowed, too, especially while trying to do everything and make time to write amidst parenting. The Oat Council had fallen apart. I'm sure it's my fault. We had fun, talked, laughed. We discussed keeping track of what happened like new 21-year-olds on their birthday drinking binge, but after I surprised them by exclaiming, "Fuck," they wanted to keep a tally of how many times we all said fuck. A fuck tally? Sarah said. She had missed the context of the conversation while ordering food. You mean like actual fucking? You're gonna do that? Her expression was sweet in its careful curiosity and lack of judgment. No, I said. The word fuck. We could arrange that for you, Janae, Aaron said, if that's what you want. Her tone was disturbingly pragmatic. My inner eyes widened. Who would I be if I could say yes? Who would I become if I did? Parentheses. What was Aaron thinking? What kind of judgment, if any? What did she think of Jack and me to even suggest it? What would have happened had I said yes? So much life has happened since. I can't imagine asking her. Nope, I said. Why am I relieved? Aaron handed me a glass of white wine. Your first alcohol of the evening. We toasted, laughed, and talked more, then went across the street to another bar. Ellery's sister and 2 of her friends joined us, and Arissa put a large pink shot in my hand. Your first shot ever, she exclaimed. Her brown eyes sparkled. Shall we slam? Bottoms up, Janae. Yes, I said. Is Arissa as nervous as I am? She had shown up even though her husband and daughter were sick in bed. She's so kind. We slammed. It did exactly what I had imagined. A warm wave hit my brain and I was immediately dizzy. In that moment, projecting the feelings times 10, I realized I would not be getting falling down drunk. I looked at these wonderful friends and at all the people who had joined us, and I quailed. I could not stagger down Tejon Avenue in, what was I thinking, heels in front of them. I wanted to have a good time and see them have a good time. I did not want to be out of control, did not want to be even more the center of attention, did not want to need their care. The night had barely begun, and I had already failed. At the next bar, I tried, hated, and spilled a very sweet Cosmopolitan. The bartender handed it to me saying, "Happy birthday," and when I told him what was up, he insisted he thought I was turning 21. Ah, the ego stroking. I got to talking with the gal I didn't know. She was a new mom and said she had not been out with friends in 3 years. 3 years. I could not quite believe it. I knew intimately the isolation imposed by a new baby, knew the hesitation and the fatigue in the face of the effort it took to manage time away. But 3 years? Maybe she didn't really want to go out? I wish baby showers included concrete promises of support from friends, even to helping them recover and preserve their social confidence. We moved on to the next place, the Red Martini. Bar along the right, padded benches lining the walls. I had not been keeping track of how much my friends were drinking, but they were merry and giggling as they dragged me down 3 steps to the round dance floor. It was nothing like dancing at the nightclub. We shimmied and shook for each other, trading off partners, then pulling back into a circle, wiggling and jiggling, not to attract men, but to bond with each other. I didn't feel quite free enough to cut loose like I had at the church, but it was fun. Someone put a lemon meringue shot in my hand and I downed it, still dancing, yelling, "Cheers!" After what seemed a long time, we walked back up to the main level. Someone asked me what else I wanted, and I begged for something not so sweet. "How about a dirty martini?" the bartender asked. I laughed and said, "Very dirty, please." Balancing the huge martini glass in both hands, I sipped around the 4 green olives. Yum, this is my drink. We sat down in a row on the padded bench. Bill had shown up. I didn't know him very well, but he was a renowned local photographer hosting regular house concerts. He was also in the late stages of rheumatoid arthritis. Even while his stature grew, he seemed to shrink every time I saw him. He sat in between Sarah and me, his head on her breast as they hugged. And suddenly, I watched my hand reach for his hair, realizing how I had wondered since meeting him if it was as soft as it looked. I ran my fingers through its downy fluff. So soft. I came out of it and looked at the girls along the bench and the girls dancing below us, all of them laughing and hugging. And I realized that this was all in honor of me. And I trembled, even as I felt pride and gratitude to be able to give this to them. What if something went wrong tonight? I would be responsible. And again, I decided I would not be getting out of control of myself any more than I already am. Someone insisted we move on to the biggest nightclub in town next door. Hip-hoppers and military guys roamed its 3 floors, all there to, let's be real, get laid. I was dizzy, but moving fine on my own as we explored and kept going upstairs. We went to the top dance floor where they played, quote, oldies. I preferred hip-hop, but my friends were in charge. We danced and danced, making a circle and telling boys no when they wanted to join us, no matter how cute. We were like a pot of honey, attracting flies and maggots. Harsh. That's not in the book. That's me. I had one more drink. With it, I could see the essence of all those around me. Some were limned in light, others were sunk in darkness. Men's faces swam up from the disco floor to look like leering gargoyles, women like witches offering a poisoned apple. We seemed to be the only pretty people there. Oh, alcohol. The translations of fashion trends on both women and men seemed to warp on everyday people. Their painted faces, stiff hair, and stripper heels obscured rather than enhanced their natural beauty. I just gotta stop. Like, wow. I don't know. I don't know if I would still feel that way. So judgy. Ugh. It just kills me. I know this was 2007, but I kind of want to smack myself. I'm really trying to think if I like my internal dialogue is still like that. Because my inner Southerner is still there. God, I don't know. Cheers to self-revelation and growth, right? God, I hope yeah. And here we go. And though I hated feeling it because I ditched the judgments and strictures of my religion, it felt as though every vice reigned here. Avarice, lust, conniving. It felt wrong because it seemed inauthentic. If I ever need to feel pretty, I'll come here. Oh, how? My body wished for the one-on-one connections I found dancing at the church, but I was too focused on making my friends feel connected to go looking for a guy, let alone that I was married. As we left, we passed at least 10 cops standing at the side of their cars. Their sober, bored, vigilant faces were cuter than those inside the club. While we walked the 3 blocks to our cars, my friends dissected our night. As we crossed Platt Avenue, I looked to my left and remembered what I had planned for them. This way, ladies. I grabbed the nearest hand and pulled them like the Pied Piper down 1 block to the courtyard of the church on the corner. Are you taking us to church, Janae? Someone yelled. They all laughed. Yes, I am, like a proper preacher's daughter, I said. I stopped them all from scattering, took off my high heels, and pointed down. They gathered around me like a flock of birds. After their wholly expected, "Oh my God," I said, "Barefoot only, beautifuls. Follow me." I stepped onto the I stepped onto the brick labyrinth before us, and no talking. Gratitude filled my heart for these people and for this moment. I was not staggering or throwing up as I had planned. Instead of being carried along, cared for, coddled, instead of needing someone to hold my hair as I threw up, united, yes, but also observe. Oh, so sorry, I skipped a line. Instead of needing someone to hold my hair as I threw up, I was the one leading them, feeling like the most sober one. United, yes, but also observing. I could feel the strands of the silent web we wove with our feet, hands briefly touching as we passed on the brick path. We met in the middle, hushed. We hugged each other one by one, then in a teary group hug. I said, "Thank you." And they said, "Thank you," through more tears. "God, this was fun, Janae," Aaron shouted, and they burst out laughing. "I feel like doing cartwheels." "Or sun salutations," Ellery murmured. "Yes," I said, "sun salutations." I raised my hands to the sky. We faced each other in a circle and did one salutation, looking each other in the eyes, ending with our hands at our hearts, saying namaste. My Christian friends might not have done that. "And now," I said, as I took off from the center, "cartwheels! I can still do these! Yay!" And they joined me. At our cars, we all hugged again, still laughing. I tried to watch over them, but each of them insisted on looking me in the eyes to make sure I was sober enough to drive. "I'm fine, truly," I said, 4 times. Can they sense my disappointment in the midst of our joy? I was supposed to be staggering, slurring, saying inappropriate things, unable to drive, perhaps even in a state of shame at what I had done. Instead, I'm reassuring them. I drove home through empty streets, loving my little city's early morning quiet. And okay. Journal. This was written when I got home that night. Excuse me. I'm happy, dizzy, sad, conflicted, tired, sleepy, in awe of life, weepy. Everything is changing. I feel like only drastic action will keep me from becoming a stranger to myself. Such a lovely time tonight. I want to sleep now, but must take out contacts, wash face, and brush teeth. Hope I get to sleep in tomorrow morning, later this morning, as it's 2 a.m. I want to cry, but I'm hungry. Not saying why I want to cry. I won't write it even to myself. That was so much fun. Parentheses, so from current times. Back then, I saw this task as a failure because I was not out of control drunk. Now, I see it as the perfect kind of drinking night, full of laughter, dancing, connection with friends and strangers, topped off with a spirally walk in a labyrinth and buzzed meeting in the middle with people I loved. It could only have gotten better with sex at the end. I don't recall if that happened or not. I wonder if it matters now. I'm sure it mattered then. Journal. We live less than 5 minutes away from a 700-acre city park, an oasis of wilderness, rock formations, trails, and trees. I have lived in my house for 7 years and never hiked it. I've allowed Jack's hatred of hiking, I walk all day, to keep me from it. Mind you, he's never said he didn't want me to hike. I chose against it. Being at Red Rocks awakened my need to touch rock, brush, tree. And now, as I sit on a boulder at the top of a hill, writing, looking south over the city, I wonder why I've waited so long. It's ridiculous. This heals me. And when I am whole and healthy, I'm a better mate, mother, and friend. Parentheses. I was still unable to see good for me or fun or because I want to do this as good enough reasons. I need to gaze upon shadows on the mountains, to sweat, to notice the life among the clouds, to need water, to touch moss. I cannot move away from here. I feel myself going catatonic, like bunnies do when startled. Which way to go? Which path? I shall make my own. 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 I shall. I must. The sun is bright. It burns, but I need it. Journal. Am I more insecure than everyone else? Or am I more honest about it? Girls like me who weren't the pretty ones when growing up, whose glasses or brains were all people saw, we don't quite believe it when considered beautiful later. So we often need repeated confirmation from lovers and strangers alike. I am a mess. I love the sidelong glance of men's eyes on breasts. Such an ancient occurrence embedded in modernity. Sometimes I wish someone could read my mind. Maybe not. But it would feel nice, I think. Maybe. Journal. I don't know how to stop opening up. We don't stand outside in our underwear. It was mid-afternoon, 2 days after I had failed at letting myself get drunk. Sorry, I keep feeling like I have... Somebody's going to tell me if I have lipstick on my teeth, right? Okay. It was mid-afternoon, 2 days after I had failed at letting myself get drunk. Jack was at work. I had just fed baby Leo. I missed breastfeeding him, though he seemed to be thriving apart from me. Ouch. I felt guilty that the thin milk my body produced for him had been my fault, that I should have been able to fix it. Sage and Percy played in our front yard, and I looked out to see Percy standing on the corner in only his underwear. "Percy!" I yelled. "Come in for a second." He ran in, his face delighted. I wonder what on the corner delights him. I wish I could feel with the purity of a 4-year-old. I squatted down to his level, and my mouth ran ahead of my spirit and said, not unkindly, "Percy, honey, we don't stand outside in our underwear." His grin faltered, as it always did when he knew he had done wrong. My little pleaser. I did that. I killed his joy. "Why not?" he asked, and my whole self blinked. Why not indeed? His gray-green eyes waited, serious, trusting me for an answer. "I don't know," I said. "I really don't." I gave him a little push towards the door. "Go play." His delight returned, and he ran back outside. I wish I could stand outside in my underwear. Journal. I don't know who I am. I don't think I have ever known. My entire existence, this part gets me. My entire existence was defined by the church. Now that I have cut myself loose, I find no moorings for this self. Mother, yes. Wife, yes. But other than that, nothing. People raised outside church use music, books, stuff, and groups to define themselves. MySpace is a good example. The nostalgia. What have you learned about yourself? What do you know or not know? Who do you know? What sounds do you like to shoot into your soul via your ears? I know most people are genuine, but sometimes I can't help the word contrived from popping into my brain when I'm on MySpace. Parentheses, meaning it's from current day. Oh, the pre-Facebook 2007 world. MySpace seems like integrated posturing, but I'm doing it backwards. I was in church in the 90s, listening to the worship music I'd be singing on Sundays, and now that I want to know these things, to be real, I feel out of sync. It's not only that I'm not up on new stuff, it's that I don't even have a youth from 10 years ago like everybody else, and learning feels more like work than fun. I made it that way. But would I do the same thing now? Journal. I feel myself stretching and changing and breaking free and growing, I suppose. It's exciting even as I make new friends. It's exhausting even as I make new friends. I can't help but wonder what it will be like when it's all over. Will the attraction of kindred spirits hold? I can't worry about it. Bridge to cross. The thing is, being a wife and mother is a foundation of reality I never planned or imagined. I was so used to being considered attractive that I had little hope and no expectation of marriage, let alone children. So while it's the most real thing in my life, parenthood retains a sense of cognitive dissonance. It's amazing, supportive, challenging, nourishing, and sweet. And it's frustrating, limiting, and exhausting. Like any rare beauty of the universe, it's totally worth it and totally overwhelming. It is all that, and I still want everything I wanted before I had it. I want to travel so much that it's a physical need, wanderlust. My heart is large, open, and ready to love. Neither Jack nor I believe in cordoning off the heart or killing feeling, but each task has been a sledgehammer, whamming at me, fracturing, letting the light in, and I don't know how to put it all back together. Make a mosaic, I suppose? A beautiful one? Maybe the beginning of one? With no borders. Journal, 4:30 a.m. I set my phone's alarm clock early to see the lunar eclipse. For all but the last few hundred years, this kind of stellar event portended good and evil. Has it lost its power now because we know it's the Earth moving between the moon and the sun? Still beautiful, but normal? Before I knew what they were, my tasks were infused with fear. Now that I know, the fear is gone and has been replaced with wonder. Journal. Did my Christian friends not want to get drunk with me because they were afraid they'd lose respect for me? Like Jack? So I'm going to go ahead and read, that's the end of the chapter. I'm going to go ahead and read chapter 18 because tomorrow night, the next chapter, it's a short chapter, and tomorrow night is when I actually got drunk, and it's quite long. All right? So it'll be a little bit longer now. This is one of my favorite chapters. Womb of Heaven. Journal. Getting naked with friends in springs sounds fun and relaxing, but I dread it. I look forward to the sensation of water on my flesh, but I wish it weren't all of my flesh. I have decent looking skin, but when I get sick or toxic via alcohol or sugar, I can't believe I'm reading this out loud to you guys. It's really uncomfortable. Can you just read it in the book? No? Okay. I'm not going to look at you for a minute. But when I get sick or toxic via alcohol or sugar, I get a little spotty down there. Parentheses. By down there, I meant bum, buttocks, ass. Am I still uncomfortable talking about it? Yes. Though after figuring out how to support my body amidst stress, transformation, and pain, it rarely happens these days. Do I still get nervous when naked in front of others? You bet, though I've been practicing. That's where my skin is most reactive. I wonder why? A physiological type? A chakra? Maybe I'd be more comfortable naked if my body were more fit. But maybe getting naked pushes people to get fit? Parentheses. It took me years to finally know that all bodies are always, quote, imperfect. Seeing more of them naked has helped. Closet nudist. Jack always said, if God had meant us to be naked, he would have made us that way. I was taught nudity is rebellion against God. Clothes were how God punished Eve and Adam, like house elves in Harry Potter. Exposing my body would go against all I had been taught, though my parents didn't enforce strict modesty. But I felt so fat most of the time that exposing anything beyond my calves was difficult. I've always hated shorts, I rarely tucked things in, wearing baggy clothes through 5 years of college. Good grief, was I skinny, and I had no clue. Post 3 children, coming close to that body came from walking, sit-ups, push-ups, and yoga. I won't get back to exactly pre-pregnancy and childbirth, but I can come close. In my little family, we were lax, although lax itself is a judgment word built into a negative view. We liked the Japanese tradition of bathing together, though we never did. I really want this. We liked the Japanese tradition of bathing together like in Kiki's Delivery Service, a Miyazaki movie. And though we never took communal baths, we didn't cover up in front of each other or our kids, thinking that the more you hide things, the more it warps perception. Parentheses. Though, yowza, does this change as they get older. My middle schooler would be horrified to see me in anything less than a robe, and I respect his modesty. A night of nude. Erin and Suzanne, my neighbor and a true earth mama, came with me. Of the friends on the Oat Council, these two seemed to have real guts and the most experience cutting loose. Erin really did dance like nobody's watching, though she liked it when they did, of course. Suzanne got in trouble sometimes because of her bluntness, refreshing to me. Her laugh had lifted me up off the floor so often. They were real, open, and excited to go naked hot springing. In the schoolyard yesterday, as we had waited for our children, Erin said, "I think you're going to find you're a closet nudist tomorrow, Janae." We headed south on Highway 115 to Desert Reef, a clothing-optional hot springs. Those recommending it would grin, then tell stories starting with, "This one time there." Even this late in the project, I wanted every task to be an adventure. Colorado is riddled with hot springs. It didn't seem to be any sort of big deal when I talked about this task. I wasn't sure if it was offensive to my Christian friends, but as I didn't hear from them, I assumed it was. The end of summer loomed. I had not yet mustered the courage to go skinny dipping in public. Will this help me overcome that fear? I was more afraid of getting caught and put on the state's sex offenders list than of the nudity. On the way there, the setting sun turned the highway to a golden ribbon running through possibility and friendship. Directions on the website had said to turn at the cactus sign. We turned onto a washboarded dirt road that crested a hill overlooking the dry, brown, and haphazard complex. I thought it would be at least a little fancy. "We have to walk the labyrinth before going in, Janae," said Erin as we got out of the car. She looked excited. "It's right up here." I worried walking the labyrinth would take so long we'd run out of time for me to lower myself into the water as the sun lowered itself onto the horizon, but I cheerfully said, "Okay." We climbed the hill on a rocky, slanted path. Our chatter ceased. I focused on not tripping and the task ahead. Nudity. No clothes. My breath swung from deep to panicked as I ascended the hill. No turning back now. The path spiraled up through high desert scrub. We met at the center. In the silence, we looked north to the south side of Pikes Peak. The other side is my daily view, filling the western sky, lodestone. Perhaps that's what I'm doing. Getting around to the other side of what I see every day. It feels like I've gone to another country or planet, but maybe I've been home all along. We embraced to make a circle in the center of the labyrinth, grinning. They seem to be soaking in the moment too. I'm glad. The walk had taken me from the rush of driving to contemplation of the summer, my purpose, to the gift of these ladies as friends. Erin spoke. "I dedicate this moment and this night to our friendship. In this little break from our busy lives, may we find peace and pleasure and she yelled, laughing. Have a lot of fun! We laughed with her and ran down the hill together. Aaron's words buttressed my courage, but I was still in a fog of fear as we approached the unthinkable task inside that building. Completely naked in front of strangers. They would judge every flaw. Is there a gauntlet of naked? Parties of naked people laughing behind their hands at imperfect bodies? They'll see my post-pregnancy flab and pimply bottom, testament to eating too much sugar and bread and having no discipline whatsoever. The entryway was deserted. We rang a bell and a lady, clothed, came to the desk. We're here to soak, said Suzanne. Aaron and I nodded, getting out our wallets. Signs flanked the walkway. No males unescorted by a female will be allowed into the facility. And I need to show you this. And this is a direct quote. The sign was all caps. Inappropriate behavior will not be tolerated. No one will be allowed to engage in any lewd, loud, offensive, or rude actions, activities, or behaviors which interferes with the privacy, safety, or enjoyment of any other patron. I wondered what had led to these policies. The lady's face looked more worried than happy to see us. Crap, something's up. Well, you ladies might want to skip it and come back another night, she drawled. Dang it all. The simplest thing I try to do, and something always goes awry. A mosquito filter failed today, and though it's fixed, they're still pretty thick out there while it's getting going again. My heart sank. I couldn't look at Aaron and Suzanne because surely they wouldn't want to stay and get eaten up by mosquitoes. It's almost the end of the summer, and I'm running out of time, and I don't want to be mosquito bait, but I must. That's all right, said Suzanne. We don't mind, do we, girls? Relief and gratitude flooded me. I added, yes, I'm sure it will be fine, to their voices. The lady looked at us like we were crazy and said, well now, all right, but I'll only charge y'all half price for your trouble, and we've got plenty of mosquito spray for you. The building felt like a wood-slatted tunnel leading to a narrow, paneled locker room. One side lined with shelves, lockers, towel racks, and hooks. Showers on the other side. I set my bag on a bench on the left. Aaron and Suzanne went to the right. I turned away from them to face the wall, hurriedly undressing. My heart was in my throat. Will I ever in my life feel pretty naked? I berated myself for the millionth time for not being more disciplined with exercise. Why don't I feel pretty naked? I mean, yes, it's my problem, but as great as Jack is, I have no idea what he thinks of my body, good or bad, so I assume bad. Ugh. Moments like this would be fun instead of excruciating if I knew even one person thought I looked even just okay. I turned around as soon as possible to make it less likely they would see the back of me, and I froze, astonished. What I saw shifted my perception at its root, finally beginning the process of banishing my self-loathing. I've come to love my body more these years later, parentheses. They faced away from me, naked, one to the left and one to the right. And they were beautiful. Suzanne was a little larger than me, Aaron a little smaller. I had always thought of Suzanne as lush and Aaron as petite, my own mounds lumped somewhere in the middle. But from behind, the measure of size dissolved in the gorgeous violin shapes of their naked bodies. They were smooth and lovely, and I felt as though the essence of feminine beauty stood before me. They are goddesses. They turned around and Aaron asked, "Ready for this, Janae?" Their eyes shone with a complex light of self-consciousness and glee. I took a deep breath, lifted my naked chin, and said, "Yes, let's do this." Twilight had come while we changed, and perhaps thanks to the mosquitoes, the pool was almost empty. one couple wedged in a far corner, absorbed in each other. Then a white-haired man with an unlined tan shuffled from the pool to the hut. I felt a gentle affection for his privates, hanging soft and limp like a lump of caramel. The water was perfect, warm and buoyant. A mountain of travertine anchored one end, water flowing over it in a sheet to the pool. Steam rose from a large metal tub. "That's the hot tub," said Aaron. "It's hot." Belly laughing felt especially good in the water. We floated in bug spray redolence, moving around together at first and then separating. I headed for the rocks. My favorite tile. I wanted to see travertine in its natural state. The water was like a crystal curtain, droplets and streams falling from the stone to the water. I floated behind the water and put my back against the rock, its cool surface a delicious contrast. As night deepened, the gals and I floated back together again, foam noodles supporting our necks and knees. We ignored the sign forbidding, quote, gratuitous touching, and rubbed each other's feet in a floating circle, mostly silent. Low clouds thickened, threatened rain, then cleared enough to shine starlight down upon us. My fear of being judged as ugly melted in the warmth of water and friendship. Perfection. Womb of Heaven. My voice recorder had not been allowed inside the pool, so as I drove us home, a new closeness springing from our silence in the water, Aaron interviewed us. "So we're here with Janae Jackson Hannah," Aaron said into the mic. I just want to pause for a second. I thought I had lost this conversation, and I found it right before the last edit of this book. And this is verbatim. I think I only edited it a little bit for like clarity, but I still have these recordings. It's pretty cool. Aaron interviewed us. "So we're here with Janae Jackson Hannah," Aaron said into the mic. We laughed. "I forgot how you're doing this all the time now," I said. Aaron did interviews for a local video blog. "We just left Desert Reef Hot Springs, formerly known as the Desert Beach Club, and now we're eating grapes off the vine with lovely Swiss and pepperjack cheeses," said Aaron. "Baby Swiss," I said. "Sliced," said Aaron. "And raw milk cheddar," I said. "Sliced by our friend Suzanne as we discuss Jupiter and Venus in tonight's sky," said Aaron. "And I'm driving and the lights have auras around them," I said. "The water must have done something to my contacts." "What were you saying earlier about being enfolded?" asked Aaron. "In the womb of heaven?" "Yeah," she said. "It was the cloud cover," I said. At first I was disappointed because I really wanted to see the stars. But after a while, with one noodle under my feet and another under my neck, I let my arms go and floated, relaxing every muscle in my body. It felt like a cloud's embrace. I waited for them to laugh, but they didn't. When I go to sleep at night, even in summer, I like heavy covers, layering them. It reminded me of that. Then when the clouds finally parted, "You're smiling, Aaron. Are you laughing at me?" She laughed and said, "Not at you. Just amazed at how you notice everything. I should be used to people noticing me, noticing stuff and everything by now." So the clouds and the stars peeking through made this beautiful face. "Smiling down at you, eh, Janae?" Aaron teased. Now she was laughing. "Yes," I said, laughing with her. And the moon through the sunflowers, their silhouettes were like, the sunflowers were very cool, said Aaron. Even in shadow, you could still see they were sunflowers, how the moon went in and out between them. I could have looked at the moon all night, I said. "I saw you floating under the travertine over there, under the cold water dripping down," said Aaron, her tone implying I had motives other than cooling off. Did she think I was masturbating? Do people do that there? It was so cool. Yes, I said, avoiding answering. What about that, Janae? She asked, giggling. I laughed. It was nice and cool, and that's all. Can she tell how uncomfortable I am? I'm just making shit up to get you talking, she said, laughing with me. I rounded a few curves, then Suzanne asked, Did you have a water birth? Nope. Maybe I'd better be a better swimmer if I came out into water instead of air and steel, I said. Oh, wait. You mean me or my babies? They were both laughing. Your babies. I did with Leo, but it was unintentional. We had a birthing pool at the house, but planned to use it only for relaxing. I forgot that I told this story twice. I looked in the mirror at her. When the midwife got to the house, she measured my cervix after 2 monster contractions, and I'd gone from 5 centimeters to 10 in 5 minutes. Oh, my Lord, said Aaron. He was dying. I wanted to sleep because the water felt so good, but suddenly there were no heart tones. Being in that pool brought me back to birthing, being naked in body temperature water, said Suzanne. Yeah, I said. She sighed again. Yeah. The similarities didn't even cross my mind. It still feels like yesterday, only a little over a year ago. Maybe because it was so traumatic? He was dead when he came out. Was he born in the water, or did you jump out really quick? Asked Suzanne. There was no time to get out. They each held a limb, my mom, Jack, the midwife, and her assistant, and cheerleaded me into pushing because I was too tired. They were yelling at me, really. The memory was fresh, and even as I drove, my body recalled having to rouse itself from the relief of the hot water. I pushed him out. I paused, the image of the midwife holding him before me, flopping, cord still attached, imposing itself between my eyes and the road. He was ash gray and not breathing, the cord wrapped around his neck 4 times with a true knot. They were silent. That's why he's so thin. He was almost 20 inches long, but weighed 5 pounds 3 ounces, skin hanging from his limbs. I breathed in, remembering where I was. It still feels like yesterday. Did they know his cord was wrapped like that before? No. I knew they were thinking of negligence. We decided to take him to the emergency room 3 hours later because he wasn't holding oxygen. He'd obviously gained weight in utero until the knot tightened, then drew on his fat reserves to survive. It's funny because it sounds so childish to say miracle, but they said so at the hospital. Maybe they say it to offer comfort, but he really was dead when he was born. The nurse said you don't understand how rare it is for a true knotted baby to come to term. And then on top of that, to have the cord wrapped 4 times, it's a miracle he survived. He needed to be in the hospital because he didn't have any fat and his blood sugar wouldn't stabilize. Do you feel more protective of him because he was so fragile at birth? Aaron asked. Nursing him has been so different from my other 2 kids, I said as I rounded a dark curve. Weaning has been really difficult. I forced myself to be open with them. On the one hand, even apart from the writing, his breastfeeding was always uneven. It started in the hospital. They didn't want him to use energy to nurse, trying to get him to gain weight, so they wouldn't let him go longer than 7 minutes on each side. Even after coming home, he ate like that, no matter how much I'd tried to get him to go longer. My milk seemed less rich, too. I've already had several periods, some 2 weeks apart. I know he gets nourishment because he's growing, but at the same time, it's felt off. I have to wean him to get a tattoo, and I have to do this project, but I don't want to wean him, even though it feels like he'd thrive away from me anyway. They were silent, with empathy, I hoped. See the frogs along the side of the road? Their eyes? Suzanne said. I was glad she changed the subject. I looked. Cool. I'm kind of slow on winding highways at night. Fast in the day, but not at night. I have a bit of night blindness. They made faces at each other. I can see fine. That does not increase my confidence, Suzanne said. I offered to drive for you, remember? Said Aaron. I'm fine, truly, I said, keeping my eyes on the road instead of them. I do not want to go out like my grandfather. He died peacefully in his sleep, Suzanne said, while the rest of the people in the car were surely screaming. I laughed with them and at myself. That's so bad, said Aaron, and so good, I said. It's an old one, said Suzanne. We snacked and chatted the rest of the way home. I felt sated with friendship, hot water, and nature. As I dropped them off, I wondered how often I could afford to go to a hot spring. I hope our friendships stick and deepen. Journal. I will not, shall not, will not scratch. Don't. Are the mosquito bites making me crazy? What is the composition of mosquito venom? Journal. Leo has learned his third word, bye. He waves and cries, bye, bye, from the front door as I leave almost every night to do wild things or write about wild things. What the hell am I doing? When he falls or is disappointed, Leo goes to Jack for comfort, not me. Jack puts him to sleep many nights. If I'm there, he won't relax. I feel like an interloper then. When I come home early, Jack says, they were quiet until you got home. Or, bedtime is easier when you're not here. I've started waiting until I know they're asleep before coming home at night. I sleep on the couch anyway while weaning since Leo can smell me in the bed and wakes if I'm there. Our bed has gotten too soft for me too. I told Jack about a good natural cotton and latex mattress online for only $300 and asked him to tell me when we could spend the money because I want to be back in our bed. He has plenty of work right now, after all. He said okay, but hasn't said another word about it. I hesitate to push it because I always hesitate with money. Journal. I am both profoundly depressed and profoundly uncertain about the future. And then a long parentheses, which means it's from current time, not 2007. In November 2012, it was suddenly clear that there was no more time for my mother to once more beat her cancer. I had been deeply depressed for months, knowing but not acknowledging this. One day I was at her house and helped her go to the bathroom. She was like a bird in her weightless strength. We've always chatted while, quote, going, so naked was never a problem, though the indignities of dying made it another thing entirely. We laughed at something, but when she was pulling up her pajamas, her face became sheepishly ashamed as she grasped her belly. It was small and round and stuck out the tiniest bit beyond her hip bone. This thing, she said, still there. She'd always hated her stomach, her, quote, pooch. And here she was, at the end of her life, so small, leaving this earth pound by pound, and she still felt shame. And my world fell in on me. A rage took me, and this one has not yet let me go. As I helped her back to bed, I raged at the injustice of our society's concept of beauty. I raged at her and all those who had loved her, including myself. How the fuck could she be at the end of her life and not know her body was beautiful? That night, I took a bath. I soaked in the silence. No book, radio, or thought. I looked at my body floating before me. I ran my hands from my thighs to the back of my neck. I imagined myself almost dead or really dead, my children looking at this body. And then I really looked, and I fell in love. It was as though a great mirror extended out from my right side and angled itself to reflect the heartbreaking love raging and longing back into my core. And real affection welled up as I hugged my pooch with my hands. And I said, I love you. And it felt weird, but I said it again. I love you. I love you so much. Thank you. Thank you for being me, for holding me. And I kept saying it. And that mirror is a new muscle that I now use every time longing overwhelms. I began the long, beautiful road of loving myself that night, because my mother never did. Parentheses. Erin beat breast cancer not long after the summer of the project. Her mother had died young of it, and Erin fought with grace and beauty. She won, and is still my dear friend. And we have gone back to that hot spring and soaked in the water and deeper friendship. So much of this is a surprise. Like, it's like trying to navigate a minefield of feelings, because I just don't remember where things are. And so thank you for walking. I've said walking with me. I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again. I'm writing a guide to this, a guide sort of workbook-ish for this book. And I knew that I needed to read it to do that. But the reality is that I would have set it back down if I weren't doing it with you. So thank you. Tomorrow night is chapter 19, and it's called Drunken Splendor Strikes Back. And I hope you'll join me. The links are in the description. One more thing. I'm changing this cover. I love it. Thank you, Becky, who took the photo. It's amazing. It's my tattoo. But Facebook doesn't let me run ads because of the naked. So I'm going to shift the cover to something a little less naked, pretty much. I've started working on that. And so if you want the book with this cover, I'm not going to ask you why. Ha ha ha. Then you'll need to get it in the next couple of months. And I'll give you a heads up. So I hope you guys are having a great night, and that you have a better one after this. And love ya. Hugs. See you tomorrow night. Oh, the awkward point.